Okay, welcome back. So now what we're here to talk about is performance management systems, or more to the point, managing people performance. Okay, understanding how to get the best out of your people is obviously critical to business. If we can't get everyone understanding what's going on, what's expected of them, and measuring whether or not they're achieving that, we're not actually going to achieve our business goals. So what we're going to start to look at now is we're going to start to look at designing a performance management system and a review system to make sure that we've got a consistent organisational approach. And what that means really is that everybody knows exactly what's expected of them. The way we communicate that and measure that is standard across our organisation and our business, and everyone basically knows what's going on. Okay, so yes, they know what their job is, they know what they're expected to do, and we can carry on that basis. What we'll also then start to look at is the conduct of performance management. Okay, so how we're going to deal with those people, and that's not a lot. To cut a long story short, a lot of people expect that performance management is only about something we do when someone isn't performing well. You know, how do we manage that performance? And often it's seen as a bit of a sort of a punishing system. But what we also need to think about is performance managing our actual good performers as well. Okay, so we want to take the people that aren't achieving and get them up to the baseline, and we want to take the people that are achieving well and continue to mentor that, coach that, and build that going forward. Okay, so it's not just a negative, it's also quite often to be used as a positive. We'll start to think about how we're going to conduct our performance management in accordance with our organisational protocols. Okay, so every organisation should have a clear set of rules about how these things are going to be managed, and we need to start talking about, well, how is that going to happen? Okay, how do we set those expectations? How do we make sure everyone knows what's going to happen? And then there's no surprises, because people, as much as they tell you they love surprises, they only love surprises when it happens to be money or something really welcome. No one likes a surprise business meeting. Okay? The other thing we need to start thinking about there is monitoring and evaluating performance on a continuous basis. Okay, with performance management, what we need to make sure is that we're not just measuring here or there or measuring once. It really needs to be part of an ongoing process and part of the tools of what you use as a manager going forward. Okay, to continually measure, continually check, and continually receive information to be able to provide that sort of feedback. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're going to cover over the next little while. So once we've actually allocated out the work we expect our people to do, we can begin to manage that performance. So we can tell people, this is what I want you to do, here's the amount of work there is, this is what I expect of you as far as the level of quality or the number or whatever it happens to be, and then we can start to make sure that we're monitoring what happens and make sure they're well supported to achieve the goal. Because remember, sometimes it might be poor performance, but it can actually come down to a whole range of factors well outside their control. So all we're trying to find out is what's going on. All right, so really the stages there are, we're going to allocate the work. Okay, we're going to tell people what we need them to do, what we want them to do. Okay, so that's the allocation phase. Following on from the allocation phase, we're going to think about, well, how are we going to assess? Okay, so how are we going to measure what is going on here? Okay, so what happened? What are they trying to achieve? Have they achieved it? You know, what came out of that? Once we know what they've achieved and we've measured that, then we need to get into a process of telling them, well, you know, was that good, bad, or what, you know, how was it? Okay, so that's when we start giving some feedback. Okay, they need to know. Give some answers. Tell them what's happening there. And then lastly, once we've given that feedback, obviously we want something to happen. We've provided the feedback on their performance. Then what we start to do is go, well, okay, so then what happened? Okay, so after that conversation, did it improve? Did it decline? Okay, what was the result of that conversation? We didn't just go and have a feedback conversation for no apparent purpose. We wanted something to come out of it. Okay, so when we talk about performance, okay, and that's what people are doing, what we're trying to talk about there is it's their ability, so their skill to be able to do something measured by their motivation, so their inclination to do it. Okay, so I might be able to do it, but do I really want to do it? Or I might really want to do it, I might not be able to do it. What we're hoping for is that our employees have the ability and the skill to do something, and they're also wanting to do it. If they're not interested and they can't do it, we're probably not going to get real far. Okay, so that's what we're talking about there. Their ability is their aptitude, the ability to actually undertake the task. Okay, and their motivation is really talking about their willingness and commitment to undertake it. How much do they really want it? Some of the things that start to affect that though, when we're talking about their performance, the things that can stop them performing is things like insufficient knowledge. They might not necessarily have enough information. So that might affect, when we start to talk about what this performance is, if they don't understand how the job works, or they don't understand the organisation, or they don't understand your products and services, they're going to have a hard time achieving the goals that you set for them. Same, if they actually don't know what their job is because it hasn't been clearly communicated, they're also going to struggle. So we need to make sure that when we're going into this part, the allocation part, that we're making it really clear what it is that we want and they understand how that's going to work in the bigger picture. Another barrier to that is also when you think about your leadership. Okay? If the leader can't lead and can't manage their people, they're not going to set very good task allocation. Okay? When we talk about leadership, we're talking about really understanding your people and understanding how they operate, when they operate, the best parts about them, understanding their skill sets, etc., and being able to provide very clear instruction about what you want them to do. Now, if you can't do that as a leader, that's obviously going to impact them and they're going to get a little bit confused, they're not going to know what's going on, and as a result, you're not going to achieve what you wanted to achieve. The other thing that can start to really ruin their performance is when they're distracted, and the biggest distraction is usually employment conditions and remuneration. So if you're having a bit of a dispute at the time about how much you pay them, yes or no, and what the working conditions are like, you can guarantee they're going to slow right down because their head's not on fixing your business, it's on working out what they're supposed to be getting back. Okay, so make sure that if you are going to get some sort of negotiation, that you don't turn it into a dispute or turn it into an argument. Otherwise, things are going to slow right down in your business and it's going to have an impact which will lead to poorer performance. Okay? And at the end of the day, that's something you're going to end up having to manage as well. All right, the other thing is we need to start thinking about, well, if that's the case, how do we set up the right conditions? Okay, we've talked about what might stop them. So then now we look at the opposite. Well, conditions for excellence. So how am I going to make this happen? I need to set the right environment for them. And that means that I need to give them a good job description. Okay, the first thing I need to do is make sure that everyone working for me has a really clear job description and knows exactly what's going on. They know what their job is, they know who they report to, they know what they're supposed to be doing, they know when they're supposed to be doing it. All those various factors that come into their job are very clearly defined. Okay, they've got all that information. We need to make sure that job description is spot on. Once we've made sure there's a good job description, we move to the next part. Okay, we've set up a good job description. What we need to think about is, well, making sure we get the right people. So what we then need to do is, once we've designed the job, we need to get a selection process. And what that's really telling us is before we fill that job, we need to go out, get the job description together, come up with a concept to say, well, how are we going to find the right person that fits that job description? We're not just going to give it to our uncles, our cousins, or the stranger down the street. We're going to really start to target, well, who do we want in that role? Who is the best person for the role? And what's the best, fairest, most transparent way to make sure that happens? Great. Assuming we've now gone out and we've selected the right person, they come into the organisation with a really shiny job description. The next thing we need to do is make sure there's a good induction process. Okay? And when we talk about induction processes, what we're saying there is we need to make sure they're oriented. Okay? That we take the time to take that person around the business, show them where everything is, show them who everyone is, make sure they understand the job, clarify any misunderstandings or understandings, making sure they're well briefed and that they know exactly what's going on. Okay, so they know about the environment, they know your business, they know all those basic things. Okay, the survival information that you expect in that business. If you've got a staff member who doesn't know where to find the toilet, I guarantee you they're not out there selling your product. They're looking for the toilet still. Okay, make sure they know that day 1, day 2, day 3. All right, we've now inducted the person. We now move on to the next bit, which is clarify their conditions. Okay, once again, we talked about salary and wages, etc., those sort of things. We need to make sure now they understand when their breaks are, what the times are, how do they go on holidays, how they get their pay, all those sort of things. Once again, we're trying to aim to take distractions away. If they're busy thinking about other things, those things are going to take priority and that's going to affect performance. Okay, don't be that guy as a manager who has staff who don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, I've seen it too many times out there. I get passionate, I get angry, because you go to ask a staff member something and they don't know the basics about their job, and if they don't know that, how are they going to, ever be the best at it? Okay, so we need to take away all those distractions. Provide a safe workplace. Okay, so this is on you again. Okay, now when we talk about a safe workplace, okay, we need to create a place where they can come and feel secure. And that might be because it's actually, and when we say safe, I don't mean, oh, look, someone's going to, something bad's going to happen. It's going to be the case of, what's the temperature like? Are the temperatures suitable? Is the lighting suitable to do their job? What's the physical environment like? Okay, so that safety aspect does come into it. But the other aspects that also come into it is it free from harassment? Okay, are they going to have customers come in and throw stuff at them? Okay, that's really unpleasant. I've worked in environments where it was not a safe workplace, and I guarantee you I'm not necessarily thinking about how to sell your product when I'm thinking about how not to get stabbed. Okay, so that's a thing. All right, make sure that it's a safe workplace, it's a comfortable and an effective environment in which they're going to continue to do the job for you, okay? Because if they don't feel safe, they're not going to really feel comfortable. If they don't feel comfortable, they're never going to excel, okay? It's really, really simple maths. This is not complicated stuff, but it's amazing how many people get it wrong. All right, then what you need to do is this is where you need to flex your leadership muscles again. And what you need to do is start to foster, okay? When we talk about foster, that means you start to instill, okay, commitment. Okay, so what we're talking about there is you're going to come and foster some commitment. As a leader and as a manager, you're going to come along and start to set the sort of morale. Think about the coach on the team. You're revving everybody up. You're starting to get them on board. We're talking about commitment. We're talking about achieving the results and talking about our purpose and our mission and what we're doing. We want to get them a little bit excited so they're feeling good. Okay, remember, they know what's going on. They know where everything is. By now they're feeling pretty safe, they're feeling pretty secure. Now you're going to start to make them happy and really build that motivation for them. And then you're going to continue on providing leadership. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. So once we've fostered the commitment, the last bit is we now start looking at providing leadership. Okay, and when I talk about leadership, once again, everyone knows what's happening. They know they're safe, they know they're secure, etc. And now you're going to provide that ongoing leadership, which means that you need to be out there modeling the behaviors that you expect. Okay, that's the most important part from a leader, or one of the most, is to go and model the behaviors that you expect from them. If you're expecting them to be, top customer service, etc., and providing information back to your potential customers or whatever it happens to be in your business unit, you're the one who's going to model that behavior. So you're going to provide them leadership and also provide them guidance. Okay, so it's a continual process of dealing with your people, letting them know what you want. As you're going through the process of them doing whatever they need to do, you're there behind them or with them, beside them, in front of them, wherever your position happens to be, making sure that you're providing those hints, tips, tactics, strategies, whatever it needs to be for them to get through. Okay, and once again, as I say, model the behavior of what you expect from those people and inspect what you expect. Okay, if you expect something, make sure you're checking it. All right, and that comes really down into your communication level. Okay, so we're making sure we're communicating with them at all times. There shouldn't be a point of silence. Okay, people hate silence as much as they say they love it because they start to worry that I haven't heard anything from a while. Is everything still okay? How are we going? What's happening? Okay, they need continual information coming through. Okay, that's going to help provide your staff the motivation they need. Okay. Which will keep them, on point. As we say, we need to make sure that we're also providing them the right tools and technology. Okay, so that's part of your leadership role, is to provide them the tools they need and provide them any technology they need. Okay, if they turn up to work and things are broken, it's on you to make sure there's a solution. Okay, you don't have to be the person doing the solution, but you need to get that solved for them so they can get back on the job. And lastly, your leadership should turn into also training and development. Okay. And what we say there is that when they're coming to you, make sure that you're providing them ways to learn their job better or possibly upskill into a new job. Okay, that's part of a leader's responsibility, is to keep building their staff. Right, so there's quite a bit on you here. As you can see, it's not just all about them, it's about what you're going to do as well. Okay, has to be a two-way street or this thing doesn't work. Okay, you can't tell people what to do and then leave them and come back in 6 months and see what happened. That's only inviting disaster for yourself, okay, and that's pretty poor on them.